Hey, hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this Azure DevOps tutorial series, today let's discuss about what is a stage trigger in release pipeline. Right, a stage trigger actually allows you to set up specific conditions to trigger deployment to a specific stage. For example, in real time you might have different kind of stages in your release pipeline like dev, QA, prod, UAT, etc. Right, so in only when your testing succeeds, okay, you want to deploy it to UAT and production environment. So in those kind of situations, what you can do is you can actually set up a stage, kind of a pre-deployment condition. Only when a QA phase succeeds successfully, you then deploy it to UAT and prod. Only when a dev actually succeeds, you actually deploy it to a QA environment. So in these kind of pre-deployment conditions you can actually set. Okay, this way you can control you can control how the pipeline runs, because you don't want to unnecessarily run your entire pipeline unless and until your previous stage succeeds, right? So in the build pipeline YAMLs and all, we saw conditions like depends on right, so which will actually control your YAML pipeline runs. Similarly, in classic release pipelines, you have something called a pre-deployment condition. Okay, so let's see that. Let's see when, where, and how to actually use your stage trigger in release pipeline. So, in order to demonstrate this, I am going to releases. Under releases, if I try to edit this, you can see I have an artifact at the first, and then I have two different stages here. For simplicity, I have only dev and QA stage. So you need to select the trigger from this particular option. If I select the pre-deployment condition here, you can see we have something called select trigger. Here we have three options like after release, after stage, manual only. So you need to select after release to deploy to the stage each time a new release is created. Okay, so by default this is actually selected. So what it does is, after release you actually select after release to deploy to this stage each time a new release is created. You will select after stage to deploy after successful deployment to selected stages. You will select manual only to allow only manual deployments. Okay, so these are the three different types of triggers, but here we can actually since this is kind of a default one, so I will select after stage to demonstrate this easily. Now I do not have a pre stage, so I don't think I will be able to select this. Okay, if I select this, you can see, okay, so this won't actually give me a proper, so let me change this. Okay, after stage QA, so I have selected my QA environment. Okay, so in my QA I am trying to, what's happening, this is circular dependency. Let me try to solve this out. Maybe I haven't start this properly. Okay, first we have a dev and QA, right? So if I select QA, so what I will do is I will allow the deployment to QA only when the dev is completed successfully. So now I have selected dev, and there's an option to actually trigger even when the selected stages partially succeeded. Okay, but for now I am not selecting that. I am expecting my stage to be completed successfully or fail completely, right? So, and a few other options also we have something called artifact filters. Okay, so with artifact filters you can specify artifact conditions that must be met to trigger a deployment. So in this kind of situation, a release will be deployed to the stage only if all the artifact conditions match. And we have something called schedule too. So you have something called a schedule where you can set a specific time to trigger a deployment to this stage. And we have something called a pull request deployment as well. It will allow pull request triggered releases to deploy to this stage. Okay, so these and all options you can actually enable. You can view few more as well. There are pre-deployment approvals. You can add your approver details here, and you can enable gates, like, okay, so there are a lot of other options too, but for now let's stick to simpler conditions to make this concept easily understandable. Okay, so as I let me reiterate again, I have selected the QA stage. The reason I have not selected at dev stage is because I do not have an stage before this, right? So there's no point in actually setting a pre-deployment condition to dev environment. Okay, but here in QA I want to run this QA only when the dev actually succeeds completely. So in order to double check, I have selected after stage and selected the dev under the stages. So once I have done this, I can save this. Now let me go and make change to the existing code. Okay, let me try to make this dev environment fail. Okay, only then we can actually understand how this stage trigger works. So if I select this, let me make some mistakes. For now I am just giving an inappropriate path, so I'm just saving it. So I'm expecting my dev deployment to fail. Okay, so now if I go here and let me try to trigger a new run. Okay, I'm creating something called test_0311. Just creating it. So let me go and make a change, something like, let me go and add some basic details. Okay, commit, and I'm just creating a PR, creating it, approving it, and completing the PR. Okay, now I am expecting a release to be triggered. So if I go here, not yet. Okay, I think first my build needs to be completed successfully. I forgot that. So let me go and verify my builds. Okay, there are few other unnecessary builds which I have not cancelled it because I was doing some testing, so it will take some time to run. Okay, so let me pause my video, wait till this build runs successfully. So once this runs, I will resume back. Yes, now my deployment is completed successfully. So I mean my build pipeline has run successfully. So now if you go to releases, you can see a new release is triggered. Okay, so release 9. So it is trying to run in dev. Let's see, I'm expecting this to be failing because I have given an invalid path. Okay, so in this kind of situation, a dev stage will actually fail. Let me wait on this screen to actually show you what is actually happening in real time. I do not want to pause the screen and resume back. Instead, I will just pause on the screen and show you what is actually happening. Alright, so just a recap. Meanwhile this is running, we are looking about stage triggers. Stage triggers actually helps you to control your deployment to different stages. Okay, so here I want to deploy to QA only when my dev stage completes successfully. Okay, so I have set the stage trigger for this particular example. So let's see what's actually happening in the dev environment. Sometimes it might take some time to refresh. So let me refresh the page. You can see my dev stage actually failed, but your QA has actually not started, right? So this means your deployment is actually the deployment is not running because you have set up a stage trigger, you have set up a pre-deployment condition, and in your QA stage to deploy to QA only when dev completes successfully. That's why deployment is not started. Okay, so this way you can actually use stage trigger to actually control your deployment activities to different stages. If you want to double check what happens when the stage trigger is not there, you can go to your release pipeline, and for now you can actually disable this. Okay, so let me disable this and save this. Just check once again. Okay, so now your after stage is not selected. Now you have disabled this. Now if I go and run this pipeline, let me try to make a minor change. Let me create a new branch. Okay, test, or let me get as dev 0311. Create. Let me make changes in the same line. Okay, hi. Creating a PR. Approve it, complete it. So now your PR is completed. Your build pipeline would have kick-started. Let's monitor this. Let's see what happens to this build pipeline. Now my build pipeline succeeded. If I go to releases now, you can see a new release would have triggered. Yeah, you can see release 10 as triggered. One thing to note here is it is actually trying to run in parallel, but the QA stage is running. So I am expecting the QA stage to run irrespective of whatever happens to dev, because I have disabled that stage trigger, right? So now you can see dev is trying to run, but I'm expecting it to fail. So the difference here is with stage trigger enabled and disabled. With stage trigger enabled, you will only deploy to your specific stage when your previous stage or a specific stage completes, whereas with stage trigger disabled, it will run all your stages independently. Okay, so that's a greater advantage of it, especially when you are working in real-time projects. You can easily control what you are deploying to your respective environments. Okay, so now I hope you understood what stage triggers are and how do you work with stage triggers in release pipeline. Alright, so that's all what I want to cover as part of this video, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe and follow my channel. Thank you.